Welcome back to Brand Your Brain. For this special end of year episode, I asked 4 big questions about 2024 to 6 different designers. What was your biggest win of 2024? What was your biggest fail of 2024? What advice do you have for a new designer? And what is your creative confession? The only rule: to answer honestly. Here's how it went.
So hello guys, I'm Kristy Campbell. I'm the founder of Pink Pony Creative, graphic designer, visual identity specialist, international speaker, and creative cowgirl.
I always love that. You said that last time and I was like, ooh, creative cowgirl.
I did. Smashing it out now. It's my regular sort of tagline.
But let's start off strong. Let's start with like the biggest win that you've had this year.
Oh gosh, so many. I mean, on a career note, would definitely be being like a headline speaker at Adobe Max. That was wild. They asked me to be a luminary speaker. I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up. I was like, what is a luminary speaker? But it was like an inspirational speaker. And like the previous year, they had Kristy be one of their inspirational speakers. And I was like, what? To be even like considered, they were, asking me to be one of those speakers was wild. So that was definitely a highlight. A personal highlight is falling pregnant, of course, which was great. Amazing things. There's so many other things that I could touch on as well in terms of wins. But yeah, would say Adobe Max would definitely be up there with the highest win.
I like that as well. I like how you combine the two as well, because you announced it at Adobe Max, right?
I did. I didn't know if it was going to be like, I didn't want people to think I was announcing my baby at Adobe Max and it was kind of the core center of my speech, but I did it at the very end. It was very subtle. But I cried on stage. I got emotional and I didn't expect to get emotional, but it was everyone's reaction was the reason I got emotional. And it was just, it was a really special moment. It was very, very cool. So that was awesome. And I had quite a few women come up to me afterwards and just say how inspirational it was. And I was just like, that's the best result out of that, because I wanted to inspire women to also be able to do the same, to you can still go and chase your dreams and fall pregnant and have a kid.
Did you get like your feedback from Adobe Max? Because I saw that you get like audience feedback.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, first of all.
It was at first, because at the end of the sessions, they encourage everyone to answer a survey so that they can either, make the decision whether they want you back the next year, basically. And it's really good as a speaker because you understand what you did wrong or what you can improve on. But the first year I was there, some of the feedback was ruthless and it really got to me. Most of it was positive, but just the negative ones were really ruthless. And then the next year I had a little bit less negative feedback. And then the year that has just been, honestly, was like all positive, amazing comments. And I was so stoked. Like, I was just so happy with how it went. So, and then my score was, I'm not boasting, but it was really high. So I was really happy. I was like over the moon.
Let's talk about your biggest fail that you've had this year. This one's the one that people don't like to talk about.
Oh, the biggest fail. I should have pre-prepared. Actually, it wasn't the biggest fail, I don't think, but at the time it struck a chord with me for sure. It was with a client and we signed up, was ready to go. I was so excited to for us to create this project for them. And the brief was to create 3 concepts for a product. And so we did that, sent it through to them, and they were not happy. Like, they were straight away. I remember reading the email and I felt tears coming in my eye because it was pretty ruthless to read and I had to leave the office. Obviously, I don't want my team to see me get upset and get so emotional about something like that. Not that it's a bad thing. I just didn't want that. But they sort of said, this is not 3 concepts. This is 3 variations of the same design. We're really disappointed. It was really heavy. And straight away, they didn't even give me a second chance. I said to them, look, I'll work on it the next time. I'll literally do it for free. I'll make this happen for you. And they were like, nah, but they literally said, we've lost trust. And they said, we would we want to just cut ties. If you're okay with it, we'll have 50% of the deposit back. And at that point, I prefer to leave with, a good taste in both parties' mouths, I guess. So I was like, yes, I'm so okay with that. I'm going to send you back half the deposit. And we cut ties. And they were appreciative of the fact that I did that. But at the time I was really quite upset, and it cut a nerve for me because I was like, how did we get this so wrong? They were so excited, after the discovery call, they were so pumped. They were like, we cannot wait for this. Like, they kept saying how excited they were. So for it to go wrong like that so quickly, and for them to even say, we've lost trust in you straight away, I was like, oh, like I could have fixed it if they'd given me another chance, but they just lost trust. And it's one of those things, like, I cried about it that day, and I always think, Kristy, have a cry about it today, but tomorrow I promise you're going to feel better about it. And I did. Like, I always feel better about it the next day, and it doesn't hurt as much. But I learnt a lot from that era. I learnt so much. So definitely, honestly, I would say for the best, because I learnt more than I did if I'd continued it.
Yeah, I think that every fail comes with a lesson, so I don't like to really see them as fails, but that's brutal.
Definitely. They had a really tight time restriction too for certain reasons, and I think that was part of it. Like, if they had more time on their hands, they might have been like, okay, we'll give you another chance, we have the time, but they just didn't. But in the end, like, they were actually quite appreciative of how it all was left off, and so that was the best I could have ever hoped for. I just wanted them to be okay with where we ended it. But yeah, I learned a lot. Like, I learned, because I kind of changed my process to fit with a style that they wanted in a way, and I learned not to do that, so that's for sure. And then I also learned really clarify, do you mean variations or do you mean concepts? Like, I pitched, I will do 3 concepts for you, but they came back and said it was a variation of the same design 3 different ways, and I'm like, oh, that's something I've never thought of before. And so you have to be really clear. So that was interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, clients, they don't always understand, like, the terminology that we do, and they're not used to it, so it makes sense. But when you have a creative direction, you design it because it makes sense for the strategy. So there is only a certain amount of ways that you could go with it, really, for it to work. So
yeah, definitely. It was a tricky one, but again, learnt so much. So much.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to a new designer?
Ooh, I'm going to be a little bit different. Learn to market yourself and put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable, because that is the only way you're going to grow. I remember, like, when I started my business, not wanting to take Zoom calls with clients because it terrified me. But then just the more I did it, the easier it got. And now it's no problem. So you put yourself out there and do those things that make you uncomfortable, because that is when you're going to grow the most, for sure.
I feel like everyone does that. So everyone goes through that where they're terrified of taking client calls. I think we've all been there. I get confessions about it all the time. People are like, do I really have to take client calls because I'm really scared? I'm like, yes.
Yes, you do. Yes, do it.
And this is the best one, what is your creative confession? If you had to confess something, what would it be?
Oh, it's something that's been on my mind a lot lately as someone who's growing the business to a team, is I have like a fear that I'm losing my creativity, and a fear that I'm not a very good designer because I'm not doing it as much. But often I feel like that because I'm not designing as much as I do. But then when I do go back and step into it, prove to myself, I'm like, oh no, fuck, I'm pretty good. I should give myself some credit. I'm not losing my creativity. In fact, I feel like I've learned so much from guiding a team, because I evaluate their designs and then I think about, from a perspective of someone who hasn't seen the work necessarily. They'll show me at a certain point and I haven't seen it up to that point. I get to see it from a new angle, which teaches me a lot about design. So that's definitely a bit of a confession, I guess, in the way of design. And also, I design heavily with squares to measure, but don't we all?
I do that too. Everyone does that. Nobody uses the grid. Nobody uses grids.
No. I used to be so embarrassed. I remember when I worked for other people I didn't want them to know that I measured in squares and rectangles, but I'm like, go for it. I've got a really interesting, should I say just one more confession?
Yeah.
I don't know if this could actually go backwards for me. A lot of time online, and I do not mean to scare people with this. People often talk about, know your worth, put yourself at a really good price. Don't undervalue what you do, but you can overvalue what you do. And I've had an experience with a designer in the past where I had worked with them before, and then I asked them to do some more work for me, and they gave me their hourly rate, and I thought it was quite high for their skill level, but I just was like, I'm going to give them a chance and see how we go. And they did the design, and I got it back, and I was really disappointed with what was achieved for that level for that price point. And this isn't to scare anybody, but it's also to show that, not everything you hear on social media is correct. Because, I'm a designer, I understand the worth and the value of design, but people can charge at too high of a rate for sure. So you have to really try and understand the market, do your research, and almost take those smaller increments to reach this higher price point, to make sure that that's where you stand. Hopefully that doesn't scare people. That's a bit of a confession, though. I don't think I've talked about that on any podcast.
I don't think that's that controversial.
Okay, that's good. I like that. No, that's good. That's all my end of year advice for everybody.
Oh, hang on. I just realised I'm wearing my earphones and they're not plugged in.
It's okay. I just realised that my mic's not plugged in.
Between us, what a mess. My name's Liz Mosley, and I'm a branding designer and a podcast host, and I also do some work with Adobe as one of their ambassadors, like you do. And yeah, my podcast is called Building Your Brand. That wasn't a great introduction, but it gives you a general overview.
I'm pretty sure you said that last time as well.
Yeah, probably.
That's the worst introduction I've ever done.
I feel like I need to rehearse and come up with something actually good. But yeah, that's what I do.
So let's talk about what is the biggest win that you've had this year. This is the fun one. This is the easy one.
This is a fun one. But you know what I realised is I'm not very good at looking back at the whole year and even remembering what happened. So mine's quite a recent one. So basically, I did my biggest project ever, and it was a project for Adobe. It was a set of 8 videos, and I am not a video editor, and it was so intense. But I'm so proud of myself for doing it. It was a project that was it was like a stretch for me. It wasn't easy. I had to work really hard. I had to learn a lot on the go. But it was one of my biggest projects I've ever done, and I feel really proud of it. So that's my win for the year. First, that they even asked me, and second, that I managed to do it.
That's good though. That's a good one.
Yeah, I need to. I'm terrible for just being oh yeah, I did this thing and then never mentioning it again. So I'm glad you asked that question, because I need to be so much better at being oh my goodness, yeah, I did this thing and it was really cool.
Let's talk about your biggest fail. No one wants to talk about this one, but
no, I don't. I'm actually embarrassed about this. What? So I still do not have a portfolio on my website, and I've been talking about doing it for about 5 years.
Really?
And this year was the year that I was going to get it up, and it's still not there. So that is my biggest fail of the year. I'm gonna I'm working with a coach now who is helping to keep me accountable, and I am going to get something done. But so it's not a failure in the sense that I've still managed to get work, which
you're getting clients though, right?
I'm getting clients without my portfolio. But I do think this year was the first time where I definitely will have lost some potentially really good clients because I didn't have it up to date. So I do really need to do it. And I am going to do it, but I am embarrassed that I still haven't done it, and I've been talking about it for so long. So that is my fail for the year.
I mean, to be fair though, I have mine, we all have our portfolio, and I'm just does anyone even look at this? What's the point? I feel no one even looks at, no one visits it. Everyone visits my services page first.
Oh, interesting. That is interesting. I feel like it's one of those ones that's not very exciting, but people do want to sort of see some examples of what you've done.
Yeah, it makes it makes sense, like, because you can go into more detail and do like a case study, but I feel like I post a lot of my work online anyway, so by the time people get to my website, they already know what my work looks like.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and I think maybe that's how I've managed to get away with it for so long, because like I don't post loads of work on social media, but like you can get an idea, I think, of my style and the sort of work that I do. So that's probably, but yeah, I really need to, because I have had people email me being like, can you send me a portfolio? And then I have to like scramble together and put together some sort of PDF that's like a bit rubbish because I just scrambled it together really quickly. And so I want something that's a bit more considered and better. And I think it is bad that I've been doing this for so long and it's still not there.
I mean, it's not the end of the world. You're still getting clients and it's fine.
Yeah.
You're doing the thing. It's working, whatever.
Well, now everybody knows. You can all go and look at my website and see the big gap.
Also, if you're listening and you don't have a portfolio,
feel encouraged by the fact that neither do I.
Okay, so other than making a portfolio, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to a new designer?
So I think my piece of advice would be to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Like, I think if you like really want to go for it with your design career and you want to push yourself and you want to like challenge yourself, like, and this, I'm not saying this is like toxic, or not that this is toxic, but you know, I get really annoyed by all the push yourself outside your comfort zone, because I just think that isn't nuanced enough. And I think for some people that'll look one way and for some people that'll look another way. And I think actually it's not about like doing something wildly crazy, because actually there's something good about feeling comfortable and feeling safe, but it's more about that, just like where you're pushing yourself a bit and you feel a bit uncomfortable, but you know you can do it, but it stretches you. So like I was talking about the project that I recently did, that video project, like that pushed me and it made me a bit uncomfortable because it was like it felt like, you know, like it was a bit of a stretch, like I had to learn new things as I went. And so but I actually think that's like a really good thing, because I just think that's where you learn. And so if you aren't sometimes feeling uncomfortable in your work and in your career, then I would question like if you're pushing yourself enough. So yeah, I think getting used with being uncomfortable. I think when you run your own business, especially like if you're freelance or self-employed or whatever you call yourself, like there's so many things that come up that put you, you know, like make you feel a bit uncomfortable. So yeah, that would be my advice.
I like that advice though. That is good. There's been times where I've taken on something where there's been a requirement or something that I need to do that I've got no clue how to do, and I just do it and I figure it out as I go along, because you have to then.
That's how you learn. Yeah, definitely. And like there is that pressure and it can be really stressful, but that is often where you learn most.
Okay, what about a creative confession? Do you want to share a creative confession with us?
I have been a designer now for, I think maybe not 18 years, about 16 or 17 years, which is a really long time.
That's a long time.
A really long time. But my confession is I still massively struggle with self-doubt. Like, I still question myself. I'm like, oh, can I do this? You know, like I still like find it hard, and I have to sort of like give myself pep talks or get my friends to give me pep talks. And I think sometimes you look at other people who've been doing something for ages and you just assume, oh, by the time you get to that level, like you just know it all and you know all the answers. And I just don't think that's true. I think, you know, like, yeah, people might not share it or they might look a particular way online, but I think actually everybody's kind of working through different stuff, whatever point they are in their career. So yeah, that would be my confession.
That's interesting. I would have been that kind of person that's like, oh, I've got all this experience under me, so I would have thought that helps. But I think it's something to do with social media, though.
I do think it's quite like a judgmental space. I mean, there's pockets where I feel really supported and encouraged, and then there's like bits of it where I just feel like, oh, I don't want to be part of this. And that probably feeds some of it. I think you're right. I think it is social media, because like never before have you been able to sort of watch so many people's careers online effectively. Whereas like when I graduated, the only way that you knew what work other people were doing was if they had got a feature in a magazine or on a blog, like a design blog. Like no one had social media, so you didn't Like, you could look at their website and their portfolio, but you weren't constantly being like shown what they were doing and what they were working on. And that is a really good thing, because I love social media. I feel really inspired by it. But you're right, there is that side of it where it, I guess, like probably fuels the self-doubt even more, because there's just so many more people to compare yourself to. And I think, like, however much experience you have, like, there's always going to be other people that are doing it better or like more successful. Well, I say successful in inverted commas because, you know, we get to decide what success looks like. But yeah, I think it's so easy to look at other people online and just think, oh yeah, they know what they're doing, they're super confident and they've got it sorted. And I feel like I'm learning so much all the time. And then I'm kind of like, oh, I've still got so much to learn.
And I feel like that's how it is for everyone.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about it, and obviously it doesn't seem that way. So everyone's like, oh my god, they're doing so well. They got all these amazing things. Well, but like, they don't fucking know what they're doing either. I get it. Yeah. It's a creative confession. It's a sad confession. Oh my god.
I mean, I don't feel too sad about it. I think what it's made me realize is that that's just really normal, and especially like you know, like on our episode we talked about rejection and stuff. I just feel like this year in particular, I felt so encouraged by just remembering that actually we're all going through these things behind the scenes, even if we're not talking about it. I think it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm the only one going through this. And this is why I love your podcast so much, because I do think it's like these are the stories that we need to hear. Oh yeah, like actually everyone struggles with self-doubt, everyone struggles with rejection, everyone struggles with this, but people don't really talk about it. So it's easy to get into this little thing of, oh, I'm the only one. So actually I don't feel like it, I mean, it is sad, but I don't feel too sad about it in the sense that I don't think I'm the only one.
That's what the point of the podcast is. So yeah, we're all just figuring it out.
And we can just like cheer each other on along the way, which is what I really love.
Yeah, so I'm Frankie. Wait, am I talking to you or am I talking to them?
I guess when you're introducing yourself, you're talking to them because I know who you are.
Yeah, that's true. Hello, I'm Frankie Harry. I'm a freelance graphic designer from the northwest of England who resides in Northern Ireland. And yeah, I started my freelance design journey. Well, I've been nearly 1 full year now in as full year as a freelancer. So it's quite fitting actually to come on this podcast and talk about the wins, the losses, and new advice. So yeah, it's literally this week, actually.
Well, actually, this week it's like your anniversary for that.
Well, yeah, it's in 2 days is when I landed my first big paying client.
Oh my god, I love that for you. Congratulations, by the way, on a year. I love that for you. So exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very surreal feeling, especially with, you know, what I've done in a year, in such a short amount of time. Which, you know, my journal's gotten a bashing this past week just from...
Oh, fuck yeah. I forgot you were a journaling geezer.
Yeah, I know. We discussed that on the last one, didn't we? Yeah, just the reflecting back on the past year, you know, because, you know, I've had a few down points, you know, that's what happens. But then when I notice when I just sit down and just go, right, well, you've achieved this here, you've done that, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this in 11 months. You know, you're a rock star, man. Do you know what I mean? So I have to keep bringing myself back and but yeah, it's journaling's... yeah, different game. Well, hang on. Let me just get my journal and show you something.
Ooh, okay.
So I was actually going to share this in one of my YouTube videos. This was what I entered a week before I landed my first big client. I'm really enjoying living in the moment right now, which is something I've definitely lacked for a long time. I'm really enjoying the process of my fitness journey, improving every week, visibly seeing improvements to my body and mind. It's 100% the best thing I've discovered and started doing. It's as if the universe guided me to start fitness as the start of the new me. Maybe it's tested me to see if I carried on with it, which I did. Then the decision to stop drinking, which is going amazing. I'm doing so much for my business, treating it with respect. The clients will start coming soon. I just have to keep going on, then the money will come. I do know that it's coming. I really can feel it. I don't know how, but I can. This journey is awesome, and I hope I could help people realise it's possible. I'm glad I've become very self-aware at 26, my whole life ahead of me. Don't get me wrong though, I'm far from perfect. I still have thoughts of just wanting to party and drink, but the thoughts come and go very quickly now, whereas they would have been sat with me for hours before. So just that little verse there, I'm treating my business with respect. The clients will start coming soon. I just have to keep going on, then the money will come. I do know that it's coming. I can really feel it. I don't know how, but I can. So like that was I wrote that in a week before, and I genuinely could feel it. It's kind of like the way the people talk about manifestation and how it sounds very woo-wowy, which it is, but I truly believe manifestation is actually real if you can truly feel it deep down. And I remember truly feeling it deep down when I wrote that, and then literally a week later it says, well, I landed the client that I had discovery call with. So yeah, that's a little insight into how powerful journaling is. I know it sounds woo wowy and like, oh, it's just coincidence, but I truly believe it's not. Do you know what I mean?
It's fucking cool. I love that. And I've had too many moments in my life where I'm like, oh, it's this shit, but it's gonna get better. And then it does, like, as soon as you say that.
I was thought journaling, manifestation. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that is so stupid. Like, it's just like nutters just thinking that they're onto something or something. But no, I mean, I learned to do that in this book here, which was my first book I read, Level Up, talking about journaling and manifestation. And that's when I started it. That opened my mind to that. So yeah, it's. I don't know if it'll work for everyone, but I know it works for me. So
Let's talk about the biggest win that you've had this year, because you've had a big year, haven't you?
now I'm going to sound very cliche. Well, not cliche, but generalist. This whole year has just been a win. This whole year, like I'm doing something that I never. Well, I knew I was destined for, and I knew I was going to do it someday, but I didn't know when, I didn't know how. So yeah, this year's been a massive, massive win in terms of learning, because I talk about celebrating the small wins. It doesn't matter how small it is. Celebrate the small win because it'll make you appreciate the bigger wins even more. But yeah, this whole year has just been an absolute big win. Like there's nothing more I can say. Like I said, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't have gone on my self-development journey.
I think that you owe yourself credit for that as well, because it's not just like, oh, you put the pieces together and it all kind of like happened for you and fell into place for you. Like, you worked hard to be here.
Oh yeah, and I that's it. And people don't see the sacrifice I make. Like you probably know yourself. All we do is work.
Let's talk about the biggest failures that have happened this year for you.
I don't really see any of it as a failure because I just see them as stepping stones. I would say, but like I say, more of a learning curve, was trying to conform to other people's, or trying to model my business or my processes on the way other people do things, the way other people show you to do things. Because what I quickly learned was that those ways did not work for me. For example, how many clients to take on at once, how fast to do client projects, how to present client projects. So there was a common theme or there's many ways that people tell you online how to present a client project, how to present a logo, or how many clients to have on at once. And I tried them all thinking that was the right way and that was the only way. And I quickly realized, and I was wondering why some of the processes with when I work with clients weren't working for me. And then after the projects, I had to really regroup and see what didn't work. And I was like, well, I can't do that way. That doesn't work for me. So the next client projects, I implemented my new strategies, and boom, my whole workflow was so much better, so much faster, and clients were a lot happier. And that was doing it my way. And that's what we've talked about this before. People teach you online. It might work for them, and that's great. And it might seem like it's a great way of working, and it might be logical and make sense. But once you actually try it, it might not work for you, because everyone's different and we're all different. And the way we work are different, you know. So yeah, that was the biggest learning curve I've made this year.
That's like very, very relatable as well, because that was one of my biggest things that I learned this year as well.
Because everything you take in will go into your subconscious, and you think that's the right way to do it. I just say, just try, test, fail, try, test, fail, try, test, fail, succeed, try, test, fail, succeed, sort of thing. So yeah.
I think actually this next one is a good one to follow on from this conversation we're having. But what is one piece of advice that you would give to a new designer? I can imagine it's like they just get stuck in and not fucking worry about it.
I think that's what everyone says, isn't it? But I mean, and everyone says it for a good reason, because it is true. But it depends. If you're a new designer and you're looking to just better your skills, which you should be doing, that's getting stuck in. But I'll answer, like, a lot of people say, well, I've got this far, you know, I've made all these passion projects, but I don't seem to be getting any clients. Well, you've got to go where the clients are, And when people say they just want to be designers, I don't want to have to make videos about my work, I don't want to have to share my photos. Well, yeah, it's just the way it is. Like, it's just marketing. Like, these videos are just an extension of your creativity. You know, it's not even bad, like making a fun video, making a good video about your work and showing your process. How's that a bad thing? Like, I know you just want to be a designer, I know you just want to sit there and design, but that's not running a business. If you want to run a business, you know you're not going to spend every day designing. That's just that's not how business works. So you've got to allocate time to your marketing, share your story and your personality, because that is what will make you stand out from every other creative, because everybody's story and personality is unique, solely unique to you. Before I started this page, I've had multiple Instagram and YouTube accounts making content for other various things, which I will not show or tell. Not that they're bad, but they're just
Oh my god, what the fuck?
No, they're just super cringy. So I've always known how to do that. So when I came in and made my first few videos, they weren't like completely horrendous with like super slow cuts, and you know, I knew basic understanding of trying to grab people's attention. So, and I think that's the hardest thing to learn. Say if you are solely a designer and you don't know how to edit a video, or you don't know how to show up on camera, of course that's going to be so hard. But it's just going to be a slow burn. The more you do it, the better you'll get.
The last one is if you have your own creative confession. So, an unpopular opinion, a personal kind of insight, something you've never shared before, or anything like that.
I guess because I'm trying to think, my creative confession probably would be, even though I'm very confident in the way I talk and the advice I give, I still feel every time I post a piece of content, every time I post myself on my story, every time I talk about something that's good that's happening or a win, I feel very self-conscious that people might be judging me. I don't ever want to come across as someone that I would think, oh, what a knob. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always try and, I don't ever want to appear that way to anyone. So I am sometimes very careful about what I say, which I shouldn't be, because I should just be me, which I am being me. But sometimes I might refrain a few things but maybe if I don't want to feel like I'm bragging or anything, because I understand when people are in a certain situation, even though it's a harmless, this is what I did, this is my win, you don't know what position someone else might be in viewing that. You know, they might have had the worst day of their life, they might have, you know, so then to just see you going, I've done this, it's just like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that person that would make someone say that, which is a crazy way of looking at it, because I think you should own your wins and stuff like that. But sometimes I think social media can be, it's you know, you want to be as real as possible.
Yeah, you're right. It goes straight back to that conversation we had at the beginning, where it's like, you don't have to do things the way that other people do it. Just figure out what works for you.
I think that's a good way to end and wrap it up.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
What a nice note to end on.
Hello, my name's Craig. I'm a incredibly nerdy graphic designer and identity designer from Glasgow in Scotland. And I've got a particular focus on typography, brand mark design, all that good stuff. I did my own kind of big rebrand over the summer that probably went a little too deep and did maybe a little bit too much work, but with the help of some really cool and awesome designers like, you know, Robin here, Alan Pearce, CJ Colley, as well, I was able to create a really sick logo design that I'm incredibly proud of, and I feel like I'm going to sit with for a really long time. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
You know the vibe. Would you like to talk about the biggest win that you have had this year in 2024?
Yeah, I would say, God, I think I've maybe got a couple, because I think it's definitely the passing my, you know, second year at art school. For those of you that don't know, a bit of context and background, like I've been working kind of in the industry the last, 10 years on and off, like both. I'm freelancing now, which has been like a couple of years. And then I've worked in a variety of different roles across like marketing, web design, financial services as well, and marketing. The financial services was a real eye-opener into that world, and frankly, it terrifies me. I don't want to do it again. I will do it if I have to, and if somebody pays me. My kind of biggest win was both kind of getting into one of the best art schools in the world, Glasgow School of Art, and, getting into my third year, which I'm currently in. I've done it. I'm in my third year, which is amazing. I'm specialising in graphics, naturally as a graphic designer. And I think my other big win that I put on kind of equal playing field of that is professionally actually executing on and creating my logo design and my rebrand. When I'm looking at it, I see like me. It's like an extension of myself, and I'm really, really proud of that.
I mean, that rebranding journey was a lot for you. That was like the whole year, basically.
Yeah, I think most of summer was just the rebrand. Yeah.
Also, I've got my heating on. I need to turn it off. It's been on for like 2 hours. I'm never going to financially recover from this.
Okay.
Let's talk about the one that everybody hates to talk about, but your biggest fail that you've had this year.
I would probably say biggest fail this year. It's probably just been the consistency in, I think, the content that I've been producing. It's probably a bit like cliche, but I feel like I could be producing like much better content and just making things, just like going through the process, like documenting the stuff that I'm doing, which is a part of my course anyway. So why can't I tie that into the likes of content that I'm making? So my biggest fail has probably been my personal health, because I've been trying to focus, so much on like whether it's like working, designing, whatever it is. I've kind of neglected myself in that way. And as of yesterday, I've started going to the gym, and even just yesterday, just going to the gym for an hour made me feel so much better. And it was great just getting that exercise in. I hated it. I complained the entire time. It wasn't fun. I'm aching right now. I did not do much, honestly. I didn't do a huge amount at the gym. I was there for my hour. But yeah, I think like doing that, like, going to therapy as well, which like there's absolutely, nothing wrong with it. There's nothing really like wrong with me as well. I just want to like preface that, But yeah, I think it's good just to sometimes like speak to a professional, just about, your life in general. If there's anything that, you can, help improve, like what actionable steps like do you have? Because frankly, if your personal health goes, everything else goes.
I love that though. I love it when people, that's such a horrible thing to say. I love it when people admit their failures.
I love it that you've said your health has been shit and you're going to therapy, Craig. You know what? I love that for you. Drinks monster. Yeah.
What's one piece of advice that you could give to a new designer? Even if it's like the simplest of things.
Right, okay. So this isn't going to be about your health, but I would say be proactive. That's probably the big one. Be proactive with whatever it is. There's so many people that message a lot of the big designers in the industry and ask, hey, like where do I get like started? Whether you're like in education or not, you can absolutely self-teach yourself graphic design. You can do it. Even if you just go into like James Bernard's like TikTok and his Instagram, you will learn everything you need to know about at least the software that you're using, at least, which is honestly half the battle. You can absolutely like learn it. Like, yeah, be proactive, be curious. As well, if there is a new designer coming in, I do feel like everyone does start off with logo design. So if you are looking to do logo design and like do branding and identity design, the Future YouTube channel has got an incredible series that got me started before I even started freelancing, that transformed the way that I do branding. It is called Building a Brand. It is like a 7 or 8 episode series, and it goes through every single step of the branding process. And it's actually a rebrand as well, and they're actually working with a client on it as well. And they go through every single step from the kind of iteration to revisions as well, conflicts and problems that they had, during it, and then the actual final presentation that Ben Burns actually goes through, who's another incredible designer as well. So if anyone is looking to get started, have a look at that series, and then maybe, follow the Future's YouTube channel, because frankly, the Future do some incredible stuff in the designer and educator space. So I would say use that as a foundation, and then create a network of resources for yourself.
I would like to hear your creative confession.
I think this does go back to the Halloween episode, but this confession comes from probably 9 years ago was when this happened. That I lied on my creative CV. I bumped up a couple of my grades. You know, I was in the process of like learning a lot of new skills, and I knew I was trainable. I knew that I was able to do the job that I was going to do, and it was a junior designer job. And listen, I understand, like, you know, the consequences and the fallout, like, of it, like, you know, like somebody else could have gotten that job as well. But, you know, at that point I was so desperate. Like, I hadn't had a job for like a good while. I was like, you know, just out of college. It just wasn't phenomenal. I think I'd been like working in Nando's for like a year as well. So like I did have like a little, like, you know, like part-time job. That's what I did. I lied on my CV. I feel like, I don't know, is that confession a bit much?
I vibe with it.
Sorry, let me compose myself. Hi, I'm CK. I'm back for another round here at Brand Your Brain. You can call me your pocket rocket branding pal.
That's so cute. I love that. CK's back on the podcast. You were my first ever guest since the rebrand.
Yes, like balancing a traditional job with like your design business.
I want you to talk about the biggest win that you've had this year. We're doing this with everyone, so take it away, mama.
I would say my biggest win is actually booking clients. I didn't expect to book any in my first year, and most of them, like, to be fully transparent, most of them have been service swaps with friends. But I did, like, when in the week that I wanted to launch my lower ticket offer, pocket size brand building, I accidentally booked a client, and it was a close friend of mine, just talking about content, because he runs his own business too, and we were like, yeah, talking about personal branding, content. And I was just like spilling all like this knowledge I've learnt, and he was like, how much do I have to pay you? And I'm like, oh. So I just told him, like, I have this if you want. And then yeah, I booked him then and there. It was so wild, and it kind of just like flipped a switch in me, because it made me feel a little bit more confident in myself, that I don't know, like, I've gained all this knowledge and I actually know what I'm talking about. It just beats imposter syndrome like a bug, and I would say that's like, it's such an uplifting win for me, at least in my first year of business since being a full-time creative.
And you were like in the middle of talking about it, right? You were launching that program. I think I remember you posted about it on your stories, like you hadn't even properly launched it yet, and someone was like, my turn, I want to get in.
Yeah, oh my god, it was so fun. I was like, I was like, in the day before, I had just finalized, like, in my head what the price I want my first beta one to be, and I was like, oh, anyways. And then yeah, the next day he's like, how much is it? And I was like, I just decided this yesterday.
Let's talk about the biggest fail that you've had this year. Because this seems to be a big one for a lot of people.
I love that, and I love that you're including it as an end of year thing as well. My biggest fail is, what was it? Oh, like following up. I hate following up, and it's because I had to do so much of it in corporate that I just burnt the hell out of it, and I went into business just being so like, I'm never following anyone ever again. Like, if they need something, like, I'm sure they'll like follow through. But because of that, I like a lot of like a few or maybe a couple commission projects fell through because I just was like, no, I don't want to follow up. And because of that, like, my income, my cash flow was impacted on, and it's hard to admit when yourself, because at the same time it's like it should have been their responsibility to be on top of their own, like you wanted me to do this, why am I the one following up on you? But the same time, it's like, you want to run a business, you have to be accepting that you have to do some things and to take some agency over like things you don't want to take agency on. So that was like my takeaway from it, and it's like, it's a punch in the gut, because it's like, oh, I have to work. I have to work for these leads, even though they're the ones that want me to
to work with me. It's just like, yeah, it's a bit of a mental battle, but yeah, I would say that's like my biggest fail because it just set back quite a few like cash flow, I guess, for me.
Let's get one piece of advice that you would give to a newer designer, someone stepping into this field. Anything.
I love this one. I really like had to think about this one when you sent through like the outline, or like not outline, but like when you told me what you were going to talk about. I really advise any first-time designer to be open-minded when it comes to like who you learn from and like knowledge and education, because like there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of people that you can admire and look up to, and a lot of times they'll say probably like very different things. And the thing, like, I'm not saying to do everything all of them say, because that's just overwhelming and not sustainable, but it's more so like I'm a lover of convenience. I love when something is like as streamlined as possible, so I like learning from like if I can get something from just one thing, I will do it. But in education, I really tried my best to learn from, or like take bits and pieces from all these other designers or educators, because I really wanted to know what mattered to me. I didn't want to just learn from one source because it was convenient and then do everything like from just them and then learn nothing from anyone else. I really wanted to know what would work really well for me and also felt right to me. So I would say if you can, listen to at least like 2 educators who have maybe slightly different opinions or completely different approaches at all, and just be open-minded about their approach, and like really like listen to yourself what it is that draws you to this educator and then this educator, because it really shows you what you value in running a business, in learning from somebody, and just how you want to be, I don't know, yeah, how you just want to learn as well. So yeah, that would be my piece of advice.
This is the best part. Would you like to tell your creative confession for the podcast episode?
I would, and mine's more to do with like, I love the whole idea of this podcast squashing the idea of like imperfection and everyone's doing well on social media. So I want to be quite honest and transparent that my income is hanging on by a thread, and I mean that in that I came from a very comfortable annual salary and like so much stability, so much security in like how much money was coming in every week, every month, etc. And now I'm like half living paycheck to paycheck because like I'm running a business, and like my income is based entirely on like me. It's not like I don't have any securities, any contingencies of like leave or anything. And like I have my partner, thankfully he's very supportive as I like navigate this journey, but that's just the really ugly side of I get to take any day off. I get to nap during the day if I need to, if I want to. But on the flip side, I'm like also living half paycheck to paycheck right now because just business is slow and every like economy is just a little bit so I'm like, yeah, it's just I want to shine some light that it's not always, because I see it all the time of like entrepreneurship is, you know, canceling half your day because you just want to and you want to go for like a walk, but like it is, but at the same time you're also like, if there's no money coming, it's your income is relied solely on your marketing efforts and you, and there's nothing more like empowering but also frightening about that. And that's why it's so hard for us to like tell ourselves to rest, because when we're resting we're not earning money, but we also won't be able to earn money if we're always like 110%. So that's like my creative confession, in that it's not always rainbows, it's not always like, yes, I can, you know, schedule my own holidays, etc. But yeah, like you also have your lull periods when it comes to income.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I am a brand and packaging designer. I'm also a student, and you can find me on Instagram under the username The Logo Lassie. That's pretty much my username on everything, to be honest. So wherever I could be, I'm gonna be there.
It's a good username. Me and Craig were talking about it the other day.
Oh, love that. He's always telling me that he likes my username.
Let's talk about the biggest win that you have had
this year in 2024?
Okay. I struggled with your questions, so my answers are a little bit waffly, but that is, I guess, I think my biggest win was probably realizing that my passion lies in packaging and print design. Because once I figured that out, everything just kind of clicked. Like, since I started focusing more on that, I think it was back in May. I've worked with over 30 clients now around the world on packaging projects, which is kind of insane, but it just feels really nice to be attracting people for the thing that brings me joy and the thing that I really love doing. And right now, I think is quite a win because it feels really full circle. I'm working on probably what is my biggest packaging project to date, scope wise. And my clients are an absolute dream to work with as well. Like, they know what they want, and they wouldn't have found me if I hadn't decided to focus down on that. So I guess there's a few big wins that fall under the same umbrella, and that would be probably figuring out my passion, working really hard to get better at it, and then superficially, I was featured twice on the Die Line, which, if you don't know, is like essentially an online sort of tabloid blog for packaging design. So I was featured twice on there.
You've like found your thing and you're good at it. And also, I did see that you got featured a second time. That was just recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the first time I applied because it was like a student week thing. Second time they just did it, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that was a thing, but
that's exciting though. Congratulations for a second time. I feel like I said congratulations the first time as well.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, what about your biggest fail that you've had in 2024? Or maybe, like, I say biggest fail, but a lot of people have been like, oh, it's kind of a fail because it didn't go well, but it was more of like a lesson. So if you want to frame it that way, it's up to you.
I was about to say, I think I'm probably going to be framing it that way. I had a couple of things I could have said for this. There was 1 month where I really struggled with no clients, but I feel like that's not a fail. That just happened. So I didn't think that was really one to visit. I think the best one would probably be quite recently. I set out to do a 30-day challenge and I didn't finish it.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and I spoke about it, but I don't know. I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone, and I did do that, and that was the whole point of the challenge to start. So for that reason, you know, I'm glad that I did it. But it started to feel like a bit of a chore, and I actually spoke to some, you know, design pals about it. So I spoke to Craig first, and he was kind of saying, you know, you should focus more on packaging because that's what you're passionate about. And I started to agree, but then I was like, oh, I've set out to do this challenge, like I need to just finish it. And then at the Birmingham event, I got some more opinions, and it just made me really, both of those things made me really reevaluate what I want to be putting out as a designer.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's a fail, really, because I guess you did learn from what you really wanted and what you didn't want.
Yeah.
But it does,
I guess,
kind of to set out to do something and not finish it.
Yeah, I think that's more the failure for me, is saying like, I'm going to do this for 30 days, I'm going to hold myself accountable, and then not doing it. But at the same time, I also feel like I failed because I sacrificed my own passions and myself trying to almost fit into this generic content mold that people don't typically associate with me. And so, you know, the videos performed okay. It's not like it was a massive failure in that respect. It just felt really inauthentic to me. And I think, I guess, also feeling guilty for missing a day or two. Like, you shouldn't feel like that about stuff. Like, when you enjoy putting out content, it doesn't feel that way. And so I definitely learned from it. I don't think I'll do that again because maybe it's just not the way that I work. But yeah, I think I did learn from it, but that was probably my biggest fail.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good one though, but also a pretty good win as well, because when you go on the internet, especially when you have a decent sized following like yourself, and say, I'm going to do this for 30 days, and then you have to come on and be like, actually, change my mind.
Actually, I'm not, yeah.
That can feel like embarrassing, but you did that instead of pushing through with something that you didn't want to do, so that you could make sure so you can make more room for stuff that you do want to do and that aligns better. And I think that is something that a lot of people wouldn't do. They just carry on with it.
No, I agree, because I think as I was doing it, I was like, this is fine, and like people are telling me, you know, they're learning stuff that they didn't otherwise know and stuff. It's not like it felt worthless. Like, I was doing it more for my own self, but I just think when it gets to the point that you're forgetting to do it or you're dreading it, and then you feel that sort of pang of guilt or embarrassment because you're being watched by, you know, a small number of people who are like, oh, you said you were going to do that every day. And no one actually cares. Like, the only person that cared was me. But in your head, you convince yourself that people are going to care, that it's a really embarrassing thing. So yeah, I've learned a lot from that, to be fair. And I wouldn't do about something, again, unless it's something that I'm truly passionate talking about, which I am working on at the minute, but that won't be coming until the new year. So
The next one, which is about what is one piece of advice that you would give to a new designer?
I feel like I have something fresh, but it then goes into my next answer.
Ooh, fun. Okay,
my advice would be stop waiting for someone's permission to do something. I say this often, I think mostly because I'm a student and I speak to a lot of people in education, but just stop waiting for someone to tell you, that you're a graphic designer before you go and find work or put yourself out there. My main source of income right now as a student is my freelance career. But imagine if I'd waited until graduation for someone to hand me a diploma and say, yeah, you're a graphic designer now, like, off you go. Better yet, imagine I'd waited until I had industry experience. And I'm not tearing those things down. Like, I think it's good to have these things and always to seek knowledge. But why stop yourself from doing both because you feel like you're not ready?
And what is your own creative confession?
I tried to think, like, how can I tie this back? I guess it ties back to the mall in a way, but people always ask me how to get into packaging design or how I first got into it. And my 100% honest answer is probably just that I loved packaging, but I kept getting, social media design inquiries about digital design and like websites and stuff. It's fine. It's not really my vibe though. Like, I just didn't really find a lot of joy in doing it. And so I put in my name on Instagram one day. I'd kind of just had enough, and I put brand and packaging designer, which I think is still there. But I literally just started saying that I was one, despite having no experience, despite having no portfolio work to back it up. I'd never done a packaging project before, but I really wanted to learn. And so the plan was, learn the ins and outs. I bought loads of packaging books. I took a course. I took Laura Evans' packaging design course, which is excellent, by the way. I did 2 internships at design agencies for packaging. So, all this stuff on top of client experience now allows me to feel really confident in my offering. But before I ever had the chance to take these steps, I actually got an inquiry for a really well-known company in the US, which I'm not going to say because they'll be like, and I had absolutely zero packaging experience, zero. Like, I had to go away and YouTube stuff. I spoke to my lecturers. I was like freaking out. I completely undercharged as well, like completely undercharged. I did so much work for so little money. And I guess the moral is that if you follow my previous advice and stop waiting for permission, you can just say that you are something, but make sure you take the actionable steps to actually become worthy of the title. So don't just be bad at it. Go and like actually try and get good at it if that's what you want to do,
The pressure and stress that you feel of like, I have to figure this out like now makes you learn faster, or at least it does in my
pressure makes diamonds.
That's I love that.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brand Your Brain. If you're ready to share your story, opinions, or those questions you feel like you can't ask, head to the link in the description to submit your creative confession. Head to the podcast Instagram at Brand Your Brain or the website brandyourbrain.net to find a bunch of creative resources. Don't forget to rate the podcast and hit follow to keep up with new episodes.